I'm very much afraid, a fragmenting European Union in complete geopolitical disrepute. Looking back, the only strategic goal European Union leaders agreed to consider once Russia invaded Ukraine was a successful NATO-assisted war effort by which Russia would be forced behind its pre-2014 borders while paving the ground for Ukraine to join NATO. That was the plan A, and the only plan that Europe had. However, long before Donald Trump was re-elected, that goal evaporated. Since then, in the absence of a plan B and in the midst of panic, the European Union has proclaimed rearmament as the panacea. Alas, European rearmament will soon prove a solution worse than the original problem. Before we get to that, it's important to mention the three reasons why the European Union's Plan A failed. First, the transformation of Russia into a war economy has strengthened rather than weakened Putin's regime. Second, even Trump's predecessor, Joe Biden, despite his false promises to Zelensky, never seriously considered bringing Ukraine into NATO. And thirdly, it was clear that in the United States Congress, both parties, Democrats and Republicans, did not even want to hear of the idea that NATO troops would be fighting alongside the Ukrainians. Inevitably, and despite the valiant resistance of the increasingly exhausted Ukrainian soldiers, the European Union's sole strategic objective disappeared, dissolved, evaporated, regardless of who won the United States presidential elections last November. And now, a Europe weakened by 2 decades of economic stagnation is struggling to come to terms with the fact that President Trump has abandoned Europe to its illusions and delusions. Rearmament became the go-to knee-jerk reaction of European leaders. Given all this, undoubtedly, Europe must rise to the occasion. It has to do better than what it is doing. The question is, do what? What exactly is the European Union missing? What is the greatest dearth that it faces? What prevents the European Union from being taken seriously on the geopolitical chessboard? Incredibly, European decision-makers will do anything to avoid acknowledging the obvious answer. Europe lacks a proper treasury. Europe lacks the equivalent of the State Department, of a foreign office. Europe has no parliament with the power to fire the executive, the European Council. Worse still, there isn't even a debate in Europe on how to fill these huge holes in Europe's flimsy institutional architecture. Military Keynesianism, the bastard child of proper Keynesianism, John Maynard Keynes would immediately deplore, will prove the pretext for shrinking social transfers everywhere in France, Italy, Greece, Spain, across Europe. If we really want to strengthen Europe, the first step is not rearmament at the expense of the social fabric, but a rational peace process that will put a brake on stagnation, on debt, on warmongering, and the new austerity brought about by military Keynesianism.